Today we are joined by a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu powerhouse, Yuri Simões. Yuri is a third-degree black belt out of Rio de Janeiro. He claimed his first ADCC gold medal back in 2015, his second in 2017, and most recently won ADCC's Absolute Division in 2022. He is a four-time IBJJF World No-Gi champion and has wins over some of the biggest names in the sport, such as Nicholas Marigali, Nicky Rodriguez, Cyborg, and Felipe Pena, to name a few. Now Yuri is preparing for one of the biggest matches of his career. Welcome back, everyone, to the On the Rocks podcast. I'm your host, Johnny, and before we get started today, please subscribe to the channel. I noticed that 98% of you that are watching are not subscribed, so again, please do so. A little goes a long way. Yuri, wanted to pull up one of the posts that you posted back in October 2022. You had a picture of you and Gordon, and the description said something like this. After I won the Absolute, someone asked me if I thought I had a chance to beat Gordon Ryan. If I had to fight him today, then maybe my answer is no. But fortunately for me, I don't have to fight him for 2 years. I have the best coach in the game, and I'm willing to walk through hell to make it happen. Fear no one, respect everyone, and in 2 years, I'm coming for the crown. Yuri, it's been 2 years since that post. Mm-hmm. How are we feeling?
We're feeling like we're going to be the champion. Yeah, I feel like I did everything I was supposed to do to leave that match with a victory, and a lot happened on those 2 years, and I was able to study a lot of what he does. You know, usually when I compete, I don't really do that. I'm usually always just focused on training, and I don't really even like do any very specific training for my opponents. But this time, I feel like I put the same intensity of my previous camps for ADCC, which made me win. But also, I was very smart and very specific about my approach with preparing for him. And I think, like, going back, I would actually say different. I think, like, I was already equipped to beat him during that time. I think ADCC rule set is a very good rule set for my style. If you watch all my matches in ADCC, I only really got scored on my weight class once against Kainan when I was actually winning the match. I was the one most active in the last minute and a half. I ended up tearing my ACL, and then on that exchange, he ended up getting my back outside of the mats, and that was the only time that I ever got scored. Every time, ever since I fought in ADCC, my first appearance. So, I feel very confident on the rule set. Yeah. And like I said, every time that I won, I put an extreme amount of work. And each next time that I went to compete, things just had to be tougher in training. I had to train smarter. So, I kept that, I kept that approach for this time. So I did things differently. I did things better, but I still have put that intensity where, like, you feel like your body is destroyed by Tuesday from the amount of training and how hard you've been working. But, so that feeling is very familiar with me. Like, I remember how it felt for every camp. And yeah, I'm doing the same now, just like I said, a lot better.
Is this the hardest camp you've been through?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's safe to say that.
Yeah, I mean, because you've competed against him now 4 times, right? So you have seen him evolve as a grappler. What do you think has changed, I guess, the most out of him?
I think, like, so last time I competed with him was World's No-Gi Absolute 2018. And I think, yes, he has evolved. I think, like, technically his game, it's pretty much the same, but he maybe has less gaps. He's more mature as a grappler. He's also bigger than he was in the time that I fought him.
Yeah.
But with that comes other things. Like, I'm also very focused on my conditioning. If he's bigger, it means that, like, maybe his cardio is not the same. There are other things, that you get when you get heavier that favors you, but things also that doesn't favor you when you're heavier. So I'm trying to be very focused on myself. I know I also mature a lot as a competitor. I was able to win the biggest title of my career since the last time we fought. And I've never faced him in this rule set. So It's an interesting new
So
way that. Yeah.
you've never faced him in ADCC?
Yeah, never. No.
What are the differences or the major differences between ADCC rule set and I guess the no-gi IBJJF?
Well, I think first it's the time of the match where black belt level adult you're gonna compete in IBJJF for 10 minutes and ADCC it's 20 minutes, but it could go up to 10 additional overtime and then 10 additional overtime. So it could go up to 30 or 40 minutes. So that's a much longer match. In addition to that, you cannot pull guard. You get penalized for pulling guard. So obviously the takedown aspect is very important, the stand-up in general. And just the point system is a little bit different, you know, like you score a little bit different on some positions. But, you know, a lot of similarities in a way. I've always competed a lot of IBJJF. But I feel like ADCC rule set was just made for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to like pick a rule set, what would it be for you?
ADCC.
Yeah, just because you're a wrestler heavy and you'd rather be on the feet. I feel like why not? I mean, again, this is like outside looking in. Obviously, I train and appreciate the sport. Why would an absolute fight just be like till submission? Like, why do you want to have? Because again, like you've lost on like bullshit calls of like an advantage over something that you didn't think it was even a real advantage. Why would these not just be all sub onlys?
I think like probably because imagine there's like hundreds of people fighting ADCC. You know, hundreds of competitors, and if every match went over hours and hours, I don't know if that would be very entertaining for the people. Sure. So I think it's more from the entertainment point of view. Like, I mean, jiu-jitsu started with that no time limits, like mindset and stuff. But the truth is, maybe it's not so entertaining, and then that they cannot take the event. You know, they cannot make the event grow as much if people are not putting attention to that. So they found a way where the match can go pretty long. 40 minutes is a long time. So a lot of things can happen. You know, and then. I think like the game is always like you can how do they say you can't blame the player, you gotta blame the game, right?
Yeah.
People always gonna adapt around the rule set. If you watch like EBI, you know, in the beginning people were saying a lot about I fought EBI and people were like, oh, that's the real deal for like look, you know, if you're a real jiu-jitsu guy, you're looking for submission. But people start adapting for that rule set. They started to like once they realized they could not do anything on the regulation time, they would just preserve energy and try to get away quicker on the overtime. Try to get away from the back quicker, try to get away from... So they were still using the rule set, even though there was no points being scored on the rule set, and playing around it, like using strategy around that. So people always going to figure out a way. Yeah, the only way to do it is the no time limit, but then it would be boring. So I think for like jiu-jitsu standards, for like making something happen, 40 minutes is a very long time and a lot can happen.
That's a lot. And I guess that's why ADCC is now known as like the top of the crop. If you're the ADCC champ of the world, you're probably the best in the world, regardless of anybody else as far as like no-gi, IBJJF and things like that, or like even EBI. Because it's funny, I was watching somebody compete. It was like a no time limit, sub only. Yeah. And I was like, man, this is gonna be fun. And then you watch dudes for 30 minutes just like roll around and pace things out because you're playing chess at that point. You don't want to tie yourself out going for a submission early on, and now this guy wears you down and now you lose. So I kind of understand that. Have you noticed people like I guess in the room that you're training in that just haven't been able to adopt a good strategy to compete? Like they're really, really good in the room and then they just don't know how to compete, so to speak.
Yes, I mean so many people, right? And it's so many people can be talented, have great jiu-jitsu and great technique, but you have to have the rhythm of competition, the timing of competition, where you have to be a little bit more greedy for the points, a little bit more sometimes conservative, know when to explode. Always like, and that would depend also on the time of your match. Depending on the tournament, you can fight 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. So your training has to be aligned with the rule set, and you have to be in tune with that, because a lot of the times when you're fighting, especially when you're fighting world-class athletes, it's hard for you to say, oh, I'm going to go there and I'm just going to sub the guy. Of course you wanted that to happen, but both people have very they made to that level because they're very technical, and it's there are not a lot of gaps, so things are usually decided on the details,
Right.
you know. So I mean it's hard to like just go there and be like, oh, I'm gonna just go and I'm gonna go for the finish, and then you lose and you're like, oh, but I was the guy going for the finish, you know. I prefer to be the guy who's going to win. Exactly. You know, and then if ADCC was no time limit, then my goal would be different. But my goal is to win there, because you always can go with a guy that's gonna play the game, and then you're gonna be like, oh, you know, I was just going out there to do my best and try to look for the sub. I don't want to be that guy complaining. Like, there are rules, and you know, in every sport, and if you want to win, you need to be in line with the rules and do whatever you can to make that happen. Of course, if I can get a finish within 3 minutes, within 40 seconds, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to go for it if that's going to expose me and make me lose the match, you know. So my goal is to win. That's that's how I see it.
Yeah, it's like anything else. It's a sport.
Yeah.
You know, you got to play by the rules of the sport. You don't see like, you know, professional athletes complaining, and if they are complaining, nobody really gives a shit. It's just you got to learn and adopt.
Look at Floyd Mayweather, man. You know,
right? He learned how to box. You know,
exactly.
he's a professional boxer and learned how to work a ring.
Yeah.
And you know, you can always say like, oh, if it was a street fight, it wouldn't work. Who cares? He's fighting as a prize fighter. He's learning that game.
Yeah,
and he's
exactly.
an expert in it.
And I think also, I mean, I'm not so much like, I don't follow boxing so much, but by what I hear and stuff is like, he also used to be a lot more like he would go for like the knockouts and stuff, but at some point he started realizing how people would like eventually being like wow, they would get dropped, lose, and then lose all the prestige and stuff like that. So it's like, why am I gonna, you know, I've built myself up to this point, why am I just gonna risk it all? I'd rather play smarter, keep winning, you know, and then nobody can, you know, downplay my work or anything like that. And that happens a lot, and especially in boxing and stuff, but also in jiu-jitsu. You go there, unfortunately, try to be the guy who's going to submit, and you lose a match, and then people just going to care if you win or you lose at the end of the day. You know? So...
Yeah, and I would assume like this is a longevity game. You know what I mean? You want to be able to compete in your mid-30s and feel really good and not have to worry about, you know, because if you had a boxer that was just going for knockouts, what happens when they're 35 and they have CTE and they really can't even train anymore? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I would assume the goal is to compete for as long as possible, injury-free, retire with a bunch of money in the bank account, and now live a life that now you can reminisce on the days of competing, but you don't have any like permanent scars or anything like true damage to
there's
hold on
that
to.
side of it in boxing as well, the concussions, the brain health and all of that, for sure.
Yeah. Which you don't really get in jiu-jitsu. Like, you have some banged up whatever, but it's not like you're walking out of that saying like, I can't move now.
For sure.
Which is good, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny because I got a chance to watch you train. I've been in the room with you a couple of times. And like you just said, there's so much strategy behind you prepping for ADCC specifically that I didn't necessarily know, right? Like, I would assume that you're a world champion, you just train, like I train times 10, right? Anything I do, you're just doing it to the nth degree and you're training harder, but it's so much more than that. Like, you may have a really hard session in the morning, and then your late night session like we did last night, that you started like 8:30 at night, which is insane, was way more technical based and drilling things that you know you need to work on, or things that you know Gordon may or may not be good at, and things like that, or situations that if you do get put in, what do you do from here? Have you adopted that, or have you always had that sort of strategy of, hey, I want to make sure I train smart and not just really hard?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I think like I've always had a smart approach, you know, about the way I was preparing, especially for ADCC. But the thing is, every time that I competed on ADCC, I didn't know who was going to fight against until the day before when they released the brackets, because always I was going to go to have 4 matches. When you go for a bracket, that's what happens. And you know the toughest names on the bracket, but you don't know if you're going to fight them at all. You don't know if they're going to lose on the other side of the bracket, or if they're going to be on your first, second match. So you really don't know who you're fighting, and there's so many talented names that you can't really like go and be like, oh, today I'm going to work to fight this guy. And today, so you just like the way my approach was before was just trying to be the best I could be with my game, as sharp as I could be with my attacks, you know, just obviously with my conditioning and with everything, and just the strategy, just like working the rounds and stuff, you know, always playing the point scenario on my head. You know, some situations are like, okay, now you're losing by a negative, now you're losing by 2, and then you have to pass, or now you're ahead, you have to manage a little bit and try to improve, but without exposing and stuff like so. You know, it was always like that. But I think now having the like knowing who I'm going to compete against, having that in mind changed a lot, because I can be a lot more specific, knowing what that person does and what his game revolves around, and like what, you know, like his main attacks and stuff like that. So I can be more specific with my situations. I can be more specific with my drills, and even with my conditioning, everything can be surrounded that style, like that, the way I feel like that I envision the fights happening, you know?
Yeah, like you're pulling dudes from all walks of life, and you got wrestlers in the room, you got other world champions, which is so, again, fun to watch and great to see for you, because you're kind of like pinpointing who's really good at each individual aspect of the game and learning from them. And like you said, you can get very specific against now training for Gordon Ryan, which leads me to my question: how do you beat Gordon Ryan?
Well, staying tuned in for the fight, watching this 18th
Oh, you don't get any sneak peeks.
You're
over
gonna
here.
see how.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm definitely not telling that before the match.
There you go.
But I'll show how.
You're gonna show it. How confident are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling very confident.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
Every
awesome.
time that I step up to compete and I can put on a camp, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to win, I feel very, very confident. And then this time I just feel even more, because I've been doing more, you know, everywhere around. So there are times that I go on and I compete and I'm not training at all. And those times I'm like, that's when you start wondering. A lot of the times that I competed, I went there and I was just relying on my technique and stuff, and I didn't do the work full time like I do for ADCC and stuff like that. And part of it is because most of jiu-jitsu fighters, you have to do seminars, you have to travel to do other things, because you can't a lot of times just make the money from fighting. So I had to do all the hustle, which kind of takes you away from training, and you go and you compete and you're like, oh, you know, I'm in decent shape, I'm gonna do my best. But like every time that I put a camp and I do what I have to do, I feel extremely confident, because I know I won this not once or twice, but many times, and this is not my first rodeo, and I know I competed against and trained against with the best guys in the world. So yeah, I mean, I feel just very, very relaxed and hungry, because this is a title that I've never had. So this means a lot to me.
Hell yeah! Since writing that post 2 years ago, do you feel more confident now?
Oh, 100%.
Every day gets
I
better.
was also like trying to be at the time. I just won the absolute. I didn't want to be like, I was trying to enjoy the moment at the time. I knew it was going to be like 2 years. So I didn't want to be right after winning the tough brackets thinking about what I was going to do. I was trying to be more grateful about the moment, and also give his recognition, because at the moment he was the right now he's the current champion for the super fight. So I just felt like I just won the title. I enjoy at the time, like when I was asked that question, right? I'm enjoying my time as absolute champion now. This is a challenge that I have to look up to do and to beat. But you know, so that was my mindset at that time. But it was not that there was ever like a lack of confidence or anything like that. It was just me coming from a humble place. I know I have to put a lot of work to beat this guy, you know?
Right.
And I feel like it's good to do that, because it kept me grounded, kept me real with what, you know, the amount of work I had to put in, that I did put for this fight, you know? Like, just like, for example, if I was like taking it lightly, oh yeah, God, geez, a lot of the times you can go in and you can be overly confident, and then you don't really do that extra sacrifice when you train. You don't sacrifice to your fullest. You don't push it to the next gear. And I feel like when you're feeling like the underdog, that's a good place to come, you know, from. So that's the mentality that I had when I was answering the question that you read, you know?
Right. You'd rather be in a position of like, all right, I am humble. I just won, but I know there's more work to be done. I'm not going to sit and relax.
A lot of
and
work to do.
Ask I have the crown. Is it hard for you to have that mindset of just living present and enjoying, I guess, your achievements versus just always looking for the next one?
I'm learning to be better with it. Of course, we always want more. You win a title, you want another title, but you have to appreciate the things that you've done too. Like I remember wanting to just be on ADCC. And then, telling my dad when I was 13, like, oh, like dad, next, because when I was 13 years old, it was 2003. And at the time, ADCC happened in São Paulo in Brazil. And I had to go to like a family trip or something like that. And then I was like, reading the magazine at the time as a kid and telling my dad, next time the ADCC happens in Brazil, we need to be there. We need to be watching. And then, fast forward, I think 12 years later, it was the very next time that ADCC came back to Brazil, and I was fighting ADCC, and I won.
That's so cool.
So it was like, manifestation, like whatever you call that, like how you call law of attraction or whatever. Like I was there, and I was winning that. So I have to be grateful for what I've done, for being able to fight this tournament that I always wanted to be, and now be in this position. So if I'm just also looking for the next challenge and not appreciating things, I think that's also not the way to go. So, I did that at the time. I won the absolute, and I was very like trying to give some time to enjoy that. And then I grounded myself back into like the next challenge and looking ahead to what I needed to work on and stuff. And that became my mindset then. But I allowed myself to have a few months to enjoy the title. You know what I mean?
That's good. And I'm sure not a lot of people that are at your level are able to do that. It's very difficult to keep climbing and have that appreciation of the moment. Is there one gold medal win that stands out to you that just feels that much better? Like your first one felt different, or competing against somebody that you really wanted to beat?
Man, like there's so many times that I've competed in the lower belts too, and then I feel like there's a cool story behind a lot of tournaments that I've done. So it's hard to point out one on another. They're all very special to me in the time. But, like, for example, the second time that I won ADCC, I was 7 months after my surgery, my ACL surgery, or 7.5 months, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and doctors were saying I wasn't going to be able to do it. And I went there and I did it and I won. So that taste, it's good because you prove, you're like, okay, nobody can really tell you what you can or can do, So there were moments like that. And like, think the brown belt no-gi worlds, right before I got my black belt, I was training and feeling very good. And I ended up like not breaking my foot, but like, I don't know, dislocating, whatever. My foot was huge. It wouldn't even fit on the shoes. And I had to go back and fight the absolute. And I won the whole absolute, playing guard for the same side because of my foot was hurt. So I had to adapt and be very strong mentally. So, looking back to many tournaments, there's a story behind it. And it's a special taste, it's hard for me to name one.
Yeah. Who's your biggest motivator throughout all this?
I think through all my career, my dad for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, is he still around?
Yeah, he's around. He's in Brazil. He's trying to come for the ADCC. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but it'll be good to have him there.
That's great. I heard. So he's trained. He obviously trained prior to you. He got you
stopped
involved.
training the brown belt. Yeah, I give him
he
a
did?
lot of crap about that. Yeah,
Man, you got to get him back on the mats, man.
Yes, I do.
That's so funny. Yeah,
it's been years of me trying to convince that. I think he's. Sometimes you put a gi and he'll train a little bit, but yeah, I think he's not his thing anymore right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, he got you in the sport, so you got to thank him for at least that. I'm sure he's super proud of you when you go and get your black belt and now move on to doing great things like this. He got you involved in judo at like 4 years old, right?
Yeah. So when I was like 4, I would watch him training, and he would have a full-time job and stuff. But later, when he would come home, he'd go get like private classes or train, in a regular class. I would be like there watching. Sometimes I would sleep as a kid in the mats, and I never thought that was going to be my life growing up, And then I started doing judo around that age in school, and only later on, I think when I was like 9. Well, I mean, with 7 through 9, my dad, we had mats in the house. I would train with him and, train with his coworker, his friends and stuff. But it wasn't really like a routine. But then when I was like 9, then I got to a jiu-jitsu academy, and then I stayed from then until all the way, and then I knew that's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
The same spot you stayed at?
No, I'm saying I stayed in jiu-jitsu.
Oh, just stayed in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Is that normal for the Brazilian culture, like to get involved so early on with the sport?
It's hard to say because
a
lot of people don't. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's hard to say because I think a lot of people in Brazil don't even have any contact to jiu-jitsu. But I think when I was a kid, there were some gyms around, especially in Rio where I'm from. So I was fortunate to, have friends that did it, some people that I knew. So and my dad too. So like for that, I was like able to start earlier, but it's not the case with a lot of people. Maybe nowadays, I mean, I haven't been living in Brazil for the last 14, 13 years, but maybe nowadays a lot more kids doing that. Yeah.
I would have thought that like people in Brazil just train from like as soon as they can start crawling, they're on a mat. It's almost like here we're very hyper focused on like the main big sports, right? The footballs of the world, the baseballs of the world. That's what I expected out of Brazil. I would assume now America may even take it more serious than people in Brazil. Would that be an accurate statement or?
Well, I think now there are a lot more gyms than when I started, but then when I started in Brazil, there were a lot more gyms there than here. So they're just like growing here a lot. Also, a lot of tournaments here. The ADCC being here, Worlds, IBJF being here for quite a few years now, like over a decade. They've been doing Worlds gi here, so that impacts a lot. And I think all the world champions, all the guys that are from Brazil, they were coming open gyms here, and then that helped jiu-jitsu to grow here a lot. There's a lot of tournaments going on here, so. I don't know. I would say maybe America now has, because it's like a bigger like place. There's more people and stuff, and there's more money. There's more things. Maybe there's like because of that, there are more people training. But I think like nowadays, you still have a lot of gyms in Brazil. There's just a lot of guys that can't get a visa to compete here and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's gotta be hard. I mean, that's why everybody comes. I would assume if you're really, really good in Brazil, you travel to America to compete and train at like the super high level. No, it's just hard to find competition down there.
Yeah. There are a lot of tournaments there, but they're not like nowadays. There's no recognition on those titles. There's like maybe the best ones in Brazil right now, Brazilian nationals in the gi, maybe like South American from IBJJF, and then I would think that professionally, like for pro athletes, BJJ Stars is a pretty good one. I think internationally and that's in Brazil too.
Gotcha.
But that's only for the people who already kind of like made it in the black belt and stuff. For the people that are up and coming, there's not a lot of like high level tournaments. Actually, now they also have the ADCC Opens happening there. Yeah, so that helps level up the no-gi side, because Brazil is very heavy in the gi still, I think that's something that for sure America's ahead is the no-gi here. People are taking no-gi more serious. I think here it started taking that more serious earlier than in Brazil. I think only now in Brazil people are like realizing the no-gi it's the thing now, and they're putting more effort into that. And I think ADCC Opens, they're doing a good job with those tournaments, like to encourage the lower belts to train into the rule set and stuff like that,
Yeah. I mean, it's truly become just submission grappling, you know what I mean? So we got Americans that are wrestling heavy, and then they learn some submissions, and now they're really, really good at jiu-jitsu. So I think that's probably why America is like the hub right now, is because I guess I'm asking the question, is the mindset different out of like American competitors versus Brazilian competitors?
In which way?
Are they more competitive here in America versus Brazil?
Man, I don't know. I'm pretty competitive. Yeah. And I'm Brazilian.
And you're very relaxed, man. Every Brazilian I've met, they're all cool and calm, and they enjoy life, they seem.
For sure.
And it's almost the opposite.
But man, even if we play PlayStation, I'll be very competitive for sure. Yeah.
You want to win regardless.
For sure.
Have you noticed a change in the sport overall because of the wrestling influence?
You mean like more towards grappling?
Like the top of the top right now, do you see that they're more wrestling focused versus maybe 20 years ago?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think also there's a lot more information nowadays with social media, internet and stuff. And there were some hybrid matches like between grapplers and wrestlers. And it's easier now to travel somewhere to train, with a high level guy. I think like, media brands like Flow Grappling, Flow Wrestling stuff, they also help people. They help both like high level guys from wrestling to know about the jiu-jitsu guys and vice versa. I had the opportunity to train a lot of very high level wrestlers, and I think maybe that's something that back in the day people didn't have that opportunity to do that too, and also like of course with ADCC growing and people realizing that takedown is a big part of it. I also think judo is amazing, both for the gi, of course, more for the gi, but also there's a lot of things you can use from judo in no-gi too. And I think especially with ADCC, it's like a blend of it's a grappling tournament, you know, like, so it's supposed to be the one tournament that for all the modalities of grappling. So I think, you know, judo has a place for in ADCC as well. I think Greco, all of that. I think the blend of all those modalities, it's what really gonna make you a dangerous stand-up fighter. With a you know, counter wrestling things from jiu-jitsu and the jiu-jitsu stand-up as well, the sub attacks and everything. It's just more dynamic in standing, you know, and more like random, you know.
Yeah. Do you notice if you had to pick one, judo or wrestling, to then translate into jiu-jitsu, which one are you picking?
For what? Gi or no gi?
No gi.
Well, no gi wrestling for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like saying gi judo for sure, but wrestling would also help. Gi jiu-jitsu, your gi jiu-jitsu takedowns would also improve if you're doing wrestling versus not doing any takedown modalities. So I think it's the same for no-gi with judo, you know. There are things that judo guys focus more than wrestler guys, and I think all of those things work for no-gi, so you can just blend them all without having to hold yourself to a freestyle kind of like style or you know, like just a judoka style. You can kind of blend it all, you know?
Yeah. And it's easy once you learn, not easy, but if you're a very high level wrestler, let's say, learning judo throws is a lot easier for you versus the average Joe that walks into a judo class. So I guess once you start competing at these high levels, you learn moves from every walk. And I think that's what's so cool about watching it now is you don't just have to be like, oh, I'm a judo guy, I'm looking for judo throws. You can appreciate the sport as a whole and just enjoy watching two dudes go at it.
For sure.
Yeah. How was your life growing up in Brazil versus, I guess, the culture of America?
Man, you know, I didn't have like a bad life in Brazil. You know, I was never like the rich kid or anything like that, but I also didn't grow up in some of the bad places of Brazil that you see, like the favelas and stuff. So for me, my life was pretty good. My parents were very supportive and stuff, and there are like culturally, there are many differences between the countries, but that's just like with any country in the world. And I've been lucky that through jiu-jitsu and being pretty blessed to travel a lot and live in many countries through jiu-jitsu. So to me, there's not a whole lot of cultural shock because I learned from an early age to embrace all the cultures and like, you know, respect different cultures and like not try to like just you know, that's the way it is. I know the different countries, people can think different. You know, there's like religion influence. There's just culture differences, and I'm pretty open with that. It's never really been a struggle, like a big shock for me. You know.
Yeah.
Also, we grew up in Brazil watching American movies and stuff. So
you did.
There are a lot of things there you kind of already like know how, you know, like a lot of the Western world follow America in a lot of ways. So I think it's more of a shock for Americans to go to those countries than for, you know, those countries to come to America, you know.
Were you pleasantly surprised when you made it to America, or did it kind of match your expectations?
When I come here, I think I was 17 or 18. No, it was awesome, you know. First time I came to LA and I was able to go to like Hollywood and all those places that I grew up watching. It was cool. I was a kid too, you know. Like maybe if I came to America the first time now as an adult, it would be a bigger shock and stuff. I don't know, like. What was your question again about that?
How you liked America the first time?
I always liked America, and I'm very grateful to live in this country and to move here because I think it's the greatest place in the world for you to, like, it gives you a lot of opportunities, you know, and that's a really good thing about that. Never take that for granted about the U.S., you know, and yeah, of course, I've been living here now for 14 years, so I have a lot of love and respect for this country.
That's awesome. I think you picked the right spot to visit, though, when you came here at 17 to LA. Because if you came to New York City at 17, you're probably like, what the fuck is this? I'm going right back to Brazil. This is too fast-paced. People are too angry over here. I can't handle it.
I was a little bit like that now when I came to New York.
Yeah, right? It's too much. Everybody's angry for no reason.
Yeah, for sure. Too much woke culture too.
It's tough to deal with.
It's a whole nother subject.
That's a whole other subject. But hey, we're not shy of our opinions over here. So yeah. How long you been in New Jersey for?
This time I think I've been here for 7 weeks almost. Yeah.
This isn't your first time here though, no?
No. This is my second time in New Jersey. Yeah, I've came to New York before a couple of times, but in New Jersey, my second time. I came here in December. My really good friend, now he's coaching me too, Eddie Sanchez. He's here teaching full time. He's the guy who kind of put the camp together with my other friend Joe Goodwin. So he came here to visit them too in December. So I'm here now, training there. You know, have like very good guys coming to the gym too. There's also my friends Lee and Anton. They came here to New Jersey to support me as well. So I like New Jersey, man. Pretty good here.
Hell yeah.
Especially in summer. In winter, it's very cold here.
Yeah, you know, man. I mean, but we appreciate the summer so much because we got the winter. You know, when it's 20 degrees out, you're like, fuck, I can't wait for the springtime to come.
Yeah,
and then it comes, like, thank God
it's very green here in the summer.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's
you gotta take a trip down the shore though. You gotta like really see.
That's what I want to do. Yeah, before I leave on Saturday to Vegas, so
this
hopefully
Saturday.
I can go to the beach before.
Dude, it's an hour drive. Take the ride.
Yeah.
Anyway,
very great stuff. Yeah.
How did you get involved? Because I've just been curious. How did you get in touch with Joe? Was it from Eddie?
It was from Eddie. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How'd you know?
My cousin Rico Rodriguez was Joe's head trainer and his family's trainer for like 5 years.
Right.
And Rico had an injury, and he asked me to come out and help him train Joe. And then next thing I know, I was living in Jersey, moved from Maui, Hawaii, living in Jersey.
Damn, you're a Hawaii boy and now he's in Jersey. That's a culture shock for sure.
That's a culture shock.
I was in Hawaii for a week and I was like, I'm never moving. I love this place. If you guys, for a little context, the place that we're training at, he's training at, I've stopped in maybe 3 times at this point. This guy Joe owns a trucking company and owns a warehouse and turned this warehouse into, I would say, one of the coolest jiu-jitsu gyms I've ever seen. It has a full jiu-jitsu area, has a boxing ring, has equipment, has cold punches, saunas. This place is unreal. The guy Joe was one of the nicest dudes I've ever met. And he just fell in love with jiu-jitsu, which is his story is awesome. That he had a lot, lost a lot, and now attributes jiu-jitsu to saving his life. So that's why he I guess loves
really
coming back
saved
to
his
it.
life. And I think he's very grateful for jiu-jitsu and martial arts for that. Joe is an amazing guy and it's been an amazing friend.
Yeah,
it's been really supporting my journey for this ADCC. So very grateful for his help and the whole GTG gym.
There we go. Shout out to Joe for that one. What made you leave Brazil in the first place?
Jiu-jitsu, just like the tournaments, the shift from like the main tournaments being the US. Before Worlds in the gi used to be in Rio, in my state, and Brazilian national. So like for gi, I think the main tournaments is like Worlds, Pan Ams, Euros, and Brazilian nationals. But way back in the days, it was like maybe Worlds, Pan Ams, and Brazilian nationals right together with Pan Ams, So there was no really like being a jiu-jitsu guy. There's no like. I mean, if you wanted to come to America for any other reason that you wanted to come to America, but jiu-jitsu was not it. And once jiu-jitsu came here, I was like 17, couldn't make to the first and second year of Worlds here. I had to compete in Brazil, the other Worlds. Then I was able to come here when I was, I think, 18. And I competed my first Worlds. And, I think the IBJJF Worlds was the biggest thing that started like changing the momentum for US Jiu-Jitsu. That's when a lot of the high level guys start moving to California, New York, and you had more like world-class guys teaching classes here, training here, which, obviously that impacted on, I think, American Jiu-Jitsu as well, because more Americans were able to train those high level guys and more tournaments started happening because of that, because of IBJJF. So I think, that created a good momentum. And then, lately too, I think since 2019, ADCC happening here in the US, they've been able to do very good work with that. And I think like bringing a lot more eyes from American people and like also inspiring the newer generations here to train that and, bringing jiu-jitsu to a lot of lives here, I think.
Yeah. Can you name specific American grapplers that sort of helped put America on the map? Like just figures that were loud and brought awareness to the sport?
American grapplers?
Yeah.
I think Gordon Ryan would probably be number one for American grapplers. As a competitor, for sure. Him, I think Rafael Lovato is also very good American competitor. You have Mikey Musumeci, who's also doing really good. He's American. You have JT Torres, PJ Penn, Rico Rodriguez. You know, he fought ADCC and he won. He's American. Man, a lot of good names, you know, and I might be missing a lot of names here.
I'm sure.
Sorry, guys. I just got caught off guard with this question, but yeah, I think there's a lot of Americans influencing Keenan Cornelius, right? So
yeah. Is there one figure, I guess, in your mind, Brazilian or American or not, it doesn't matter, that has really changed the sport, like for this generation? Like if you could name one person that embodies jiu-jitsu, who would it be?
To me, there were like a few, but I think like one of my favorite fighters of all time is like Rickson Gracie. Yeah, but growing up, I would like look up to a lot of the jiu-jitsu legends, and you know, some of them end up becoming my competitors once I got in the black belt, and it just changed my whole approach, or you know, perspective from being like a guy who like looks up to them, and then just like having to look at them as a competitor and get past to that, like, you know, like, oh, he's not my idol anymore. Now I'm like, have to beat this guy up. You know, but there are a lot of like very talented competitors in Brazil, but also like, you know, I was a blue belt. Lovato was already world champion, BJ Penn stuff. So to me, it was never like about a nationality. Oh, I want to be like this Brazilian fighter. It was more about the fighter itself, you know, and his skills. So that's what I always looked up, you know, beyond, you know, this guy's Japanese or brand.
Yeah, it didn't matter at that point, right? I feel like every time I ask that question to somebody, like Leandro seems to come up more often than not.
Leandro Lo?
Yeah.
I trained with him.
Did you?
I competed against him and I trained with him for 1 month. He was an amazing person and very, very great competitor. Yeah.
When did you compete against him?
I competed against him in the Pan Ams 2015. Yeah.
Okay. Was he a guy that you were looking up to and then had to compete against?
He just got in the black belt, I think 1 year before I did.
Okay.
So he was, I was maybe like, when I got to the black belt, I was looking up for maybe Romulo Barral, André Galvão, those guys from that Brawlers team, or those, you know, Jacaré, Fabricio Verdum, like those were the guys that I was looking up to, and because he was almost same generation as me, but he was also like one. I think he got maybe the black belt 1 or 2 years ahead. So he was someone that I was looking like during the same time that I was competing, the people that I was competing against, but not. He was not like the legend that he became, like until I was already also in the black belt.
You were already up there with him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
But in the gi, he's for sure one of the greatest, for sure.
Yeah. It was just, I mean, again, I don't know much about the sport, but what I do know is when I started getting into it, I'd watch him and be like, that guy just looks like a great dude.
Yeah.
You know?
I think for the newer generation, for sure, that he's probably one of the main guys that inspire them.
Yeah, he's a big personality, I guess.
Yeah.
Who was your main coach when you got to LA?
When I got to LA, I was with Checkmat. I was training with Lucas Leite at the time, very good friend of mine. Also a great person. So I trained with Checkmat I was Checkmat so my first coach passed away when I was a blue belt. He gave me the blue belt. I think a month later he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, he was very like subtle and nobody expected, and the way he was kind of messed up. But after that, I went to Checkmat. At the time was Braza, and then my coach ended up joining Checkmat. They created Checkmat, but it was like the same coach. You know, just his team switched, so I went with him.
Sure, okay.
And then I stayed in Checkmat all the way until I think my 3rd or 4th year in the black belt. Yeah.
Did your coach passing have any impact on you as a competitor? Did you want to train harder, or?
For sure, like he was like, I would spend more time with him than even with my parents. I would be in the gym as I would, you know, get out of school, go swim, and then I would go to the gym, like help teach kids class, and two kids class, and then do my class, and then do adults class. I would just stay all day in the gym, and he was like a second father to me, you know. So, he was an amazing coach, amazing person, and a lot of people were inspired by him, and the way it happened was really like a catastrophe. And like I think that helped, that pushed me to in the moment I was like, okay, I really want to make it be a good competitor for him, and also like to make him proud, wherever he is, so I looked up to him a lot. He was a legit he was a great influence for my career also as a fighter.
So that was when you were young. I didn't realize he passed when you were that young.
Yeah.
So you were almost 18, 19.
I was like 16.
Wow.
Just turned 16.
Just got there.
Yeah, I was 15, turned 16. He passed away a week before I turned 16. Yeah.
And then his coach just like took over his spot, sort of thing. Your new coach had.
Yeah. So then I moved. I have 2 adopted brothers. I moved with them to. We were all training there, and then we moved to Czech, which at the time was Braza.
Okay.
So we went to train with that. They were already kind of going there, and then after my coach passed away, then I went to train with them.
Yeah, I think you just had to. I would assume you just had to like make a change.
And that was with Ricardo Vieira at the time. He's the one who gave me my black belt.
Who was that?
Ricardo Vieira. Yeah.
Okay.
Leo Vieira brother.
Yeah. And when did you get your black belt? How old were you?
I was just turned 21. Yeah.
Damn. Young, man.
I'm 34 now. Turned 34.
Big. And when did you win your first ADCC gold in?
I was
15?
25 in 2015.
Yeah. Was that your first time competing in ADCC?
Yeah.
So the first time you competed, you win.
Yeah.
Was that a shock to the world? Were they like, who is this guy?
That was when it was like, I was telling you, like it was in Brazil, and I never thought I was going to be there competing. And I was there, and my parents were watching and stuff. It was like really like something that I always dreamed that manifested in my eyes. It was like a little bit overwhelming when I did it. I was super stoked, but it was kind of like, whoa, I didn't think it was going to happen like that, but it was amazing, I think it happened perfectly, man, it was very special.
That's awesome, right? In front of your family and the hometown team and stuff like that. What do you think makes you that much better than the best?
I don't know what makes me better. I don't know if I can call myself better. I never really like refer myself as better than other people. I just I won all the titles that I won through a lot of hard work, a lot of training, a lot of overcoming injuries, a lot of perseverance, just being relentless with my goals. And I think like for sure that's something that I think differs me from a lot of people is like my relentlessness, whether it's like with my, like I'm saying, my perseverance to bounce back from injuries that many people retire from situations and many people would break. I feel like I bring that relentlessness also on my performance, the way that I fight. I'm very intense fighter. I'm like, I feel like this part of me that is like different than other fighters, when we put technique and all of those things aside, I think this is something that I've always had, like on me.
Yeah. I mean, just from watching, I guess 3 or 4 times I've seen you train, like you said, putting everything, like the hard work and the discipline, that's inevitable. You need that to even be great, right? You seem to know yourself a lot better, and you're very self-aware, and you're willing to say like, hey, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this instead, because that's what my body and that's what I need to get better. I'm not just fitting into like a cookie cutter program to kind of appeal or that's what I think I need. No, I know exactly what I need to be doing for this fight specifically, and I'm going to go and do that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes. That comes from experience. I've been doing this for a long time. And when it comes time to train for something like that, I always say you have to be very honest with yourself. And that means, if that means taking a rest, that's taking rest. But most of the time, 99%, that means training more than what you're training. And that's what I mean by being honest with yourself. It's like, if I can do more, I always do something more. I always do something, an extra this, an extra that. I try to be, every day I sit with my coaches, I sit with Dad, I sit with Lee and Anton, they're all my friends, and they've been helping me a lot as my coaches for this match too. and we all sit and we're discussing for like sometimes 1 hour discussing where we're gonna work on the next day. You know, we're watching matches, so just never good enough. You're always like trying to like fix something, you're always trying to improve something, and I think that's the data that I have from my successful performance on ADCC. It's to always be looking for that, to fix something. You never be complacent, never be like, oh, I'm good now. I'm always trying to like, I'm never content. I'm always trying to push and get better on this or that, you know. And then you can do that everywhere. You can do that how you eat, or maybe when you're lacking sleep or not resting properly. You can improve your sleep. You can, improve your like, you work with a sports psychologist, or visualization, or I don't know, like breathing, whatever, like techniques, and you can work all the mental side of doing those things, and then you can do strategy. We can watch so there's like everywhere you look, there are things to improve. And when I'm doing something like that, I'm very obsessed with like trying to be as perfect and as on point as I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you do stuff like that, like visualization and breath work and things?
It's something I've been doing lately for sure.
Really?
Yeah, more. Yeah.
How's that impacting
I
you?
started doing that maybe like 2021.
Really?
Yeah, I believe a lot in that stuff. I think there's like so many successful athletes that have utilized those techniques, and I think that's a game changer.
What does that look like for you?
I think it's just like going through the things that's going to happen, on the week. Sometimes it can go as like how you're going to feel in the week of the fight, the things you're going to do, and then just seeing those things happening before they happen. And also especially the day of the fight, how are you going to do when you wake up, and what are you going to eat, what time you're going to warm up, and how are you going to warm up, and what are you going to be thinking when you do that? Just going through those thoughts endless amount of times, and then when thinking about the fight and how it's going to be, and like even I go in as deep as thinking about even the breath in your fight when you're in there, and like you hear the opponent breathing, and like every single thing. I try to play that in my head, but I start doing that more actually around this time now. So like towards the end of this week, that's when I'm just gonna start tapering off the training and doing more of the mental stuff, the mobility, all the like, just everything to make the machine ready to just go. The hardest part is like coming to an end now towards the end of the week. I think Monday will be my last very hard session. God will, everything will be smooth and healthy and everything, and that should be my last hard training session. And then that's when you start getting more into the visualization, all the other stuff, the recovery stuff, hydrating, making sure everything else is on point, and so I can be the best Yuri Simões that it's ever been.
That's right, man. Do you have like a visualization coach, or are you doing this by yourself?
I had like a sports psychologist for a while. I've been working with another one now. I haven't done so much sessions. I'm more focused on the actual work that I had to do, because I've done that stuff for like years, and I've learned a lot about myself, and there are things that I already have like from those sessions that I can apply. But now towards, like I said, once I start slowing down the physical training, I'm going to put in more effort on that part as well.
Yeah. Are you like sitting silent like for however long?
I can do that too sometimes. Like I've even took like once like a few breathing and meditation practice and stuff. I'm interested about that too. I think there's a place for that too in performance, and if it's gonna help, why not? That's my mindset. Yeah.
I've tried to meditate. It's hard, man. Sit by yourself for 10 minutes is a long time.
Yeah. No, meditating, it is hard for me as well.
Yeah.
But the times that I was able to do it, I felt a huge difference.
Yeah. It seems like you walk around that day a little bit lighter, and things don't bother you as much. And I was going to mention before, you mentioned how it's never enough, right? Like every day you can get a little bit better. But it seems like your approach is that of excitement versus like defeat or guilt. A lot of people that are hyper successful sometimes operate from this place of they just never feel comfortable in their own skin because they always want to be a little bit better. Whereas you seem very happy.
I have moments like that too. I'm not going to be hypocrite and tell you otherwise.
You're not.
I do have a lot of moments like that, but it's all about like trying to keep yourself at check too, and try to find the balance. And there are times that comes more. And I think closer to like in the camps, that's when I'm more like that, when I'm demanding a lot from myself, demanding a lot from my training, trying to be as, like I said, on point as I can with every single detail. Pretty hard on myself when I can't execute something that I'm planning and stuff. I'm pretty hard on my head with that stuff. And but it's like I said, finding the balance, and then sometimes when I'm not competing, sometimes I'm too relaxed and I'm like, no, like let's, just that's it, just the balance. It's everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, when you're not competing, what are hobbies outside of jiu-jitsu for you?
Man, I love nature. I love traveling, learning things, whether it's like languages or like meeting different cultures and different food, trying different foods, like watching movies, like so many things, like music. I enjoy music. I enjoy going out too, occasionally, like if I'm not competing and if there's nothing going on, I can enjoy life too. I think, especially like I've doing that my whole life. I didn't go out my early age and stuff. And like, I feel like sometimes it's good to know that like life is more than this stuff that we're doing. For me, life is more than fighting as well. Right now, I don't want to think like that. Like right now, it's like my life is fighting. Everything that means everything. But sometimes when I don't have any tournament in sight, maybe I'm teaching more. Then I change my mindset. I try to be more laid back, and it also being a coach and being a fighter, completely polar opposite is like, one, you have to be completely selfish and focus on yourself. As a coach, you have to be very selfless and care about your students. Otherwise, you're not a good coach. So that's why I try to separate. I never really train in a camp when I'm teaching. I can go and teach like a seminar while I'm in a camp and stuff. That's okay. But if I'm teaching on daily basis and if I'm having to train myself, I find that very hard, because you're giving energy when you're going to like a training session. You're giving your energy, like, to other people to make sure they learn the technique. That takes energy. And when I'm fighting, and especially if I'm training for something important, to try to accomplish something important, I need all my energy into this,
Sure.
So
yeah, I was about to say, like, the camp that you have is they're your close friends, but they're your support system too. Like you said, when you get too down on yourself, I see the guys around you. Even in the training, if you're feeling a little bit down on whatever just happened, you have guys like Lee and Eddie that are constantly just reinforcing, no, you got this. You are, the best. And that is so important. Is your family just as supportive with something like this?
Oh, for sure. My family's always been very supportive. They don't live with, I don't live with them for like, since I was 18, I moved out of the house. Which in Brazil, usually you stay with your family. I know in America it's a common thing to leave the house like when you're 18 and stuff, but in Brazil it's like not really like that. But I just had to embrace the life that I chose, so that ended up looking like traveling outside of Brazil and having to leave, follow my dreams and stuff. And it's hard because I was really close to them. I am really close to them, but they've always been supportive. They always like push me to go do the things that I believe that I could do, and my go after my dreams and stuff like that. So I'm very grateful for them.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, we finish every podcast by asking our guests two questions. In life, doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu related, what has been the lowest of your lows? And let's follow it up with what has been the highest of your highs.
Man, I would have to think a lot about to be precise with that, before. But I think some of my lowest moments were when I had my ACL surgery, MCL, and all of that. Like the last knee surgery I had was a pretty bad one in 2019, and that was during a time where I was on the American visa, but I was on the process of getting the green card. So for like 8 months that I was here, I was legally here because my visa had just expired, and I was on the waiting line for my green card. So I was legal, but if I left the country, then I couldn't come back. If I left the country, because then by the time I moved to the next step of the green card, I would have to be here, and then they wouldn't let me get here to do that. So I had to stay in the US without getting paid. It was like a big struggle. And during that time, I wasn't able to work anyways because I had the worst injury of my life. My friend Eddie also helped me a lot during that time. I went to Maui, I stayed there. He was helping me. I was teaching at his place and stuff, and it was rough, man. It was a rough time because also mainly because a lot of people think you're done, you're not gonna, and then you, like, for me, it was the time that I realized that I'm more than jiu-jitsu too, because my whole life I was like just looking at myself as a fighter, and then I realized I was more than that. Helped me to grow as a person, to becoming stronger, and also like see that you can overcome those things. People can think you're done and stuff. You can go there and prove otherwise. So I think some of those injuries moments, brought me to my lowest because I had to stay away from doing what I love and from what I even feel like defined myself for many years before I found out that life is much broader than that. So overcoming that was very important for my personality development. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. And what about your highest of your highs?
The highest of my highs. There are so many great moments, but I mean, if we're talking professionally, for sure, winning my last title was amazing time. Just all the work that I put into that and all the sacrifice, and when you pay off, that's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
But there were like special moments, with my family, personal moments that were also big as well in a different way, So it's like, it's hard to name, but I would say professionally for sure, winning ADCC last title was one of the highest of the highest, at least now on top of my head.
Right. Well, hopefully we have another high of your highs in a couple
Yes,
weeks
that's
here.
the plan.
Good luck against Gordon Ryan. I
Thank you,
am
John.
so thankful that I'm able to be a part of this now. I have somebody to root for. So thank you for allowing me to interview, be a part of your camp, and get to see behind the scenes. But this has been a lot of fun. So thank you again, guys. As always, like, subscribe, share, all the good stuff. That's it for today. Cheers.
Thank you, bro.
All right, absolutely.